Hello and welcome to the podcast. Every moment is sacred, where we interweave meditation and healing into everyday life. I am your host, Rain Elizabeth Stickney. Now, let us begin. You are in for a treat. I am so happy and excited to introduce you to Debbie McAllister. Debbie is a breakthrough catalyst coach and the host of Light Up Your Worth podcast. She guides spiritually curious women to release their mental and emotional blocks that keep them stuck, so they can discover the unbelievable resources within themselves, ignite their light, and empower them in building a consciously intentional, radiant life. My conversation with Debbie was so juicy, so rich, so full of content and connection and resonance and healing that I broke our conversation up into 2 parts. Today is part 1, and next Friday will be part 2. Here you get to witness and engage with Debbie and I as we talk about her work and her experiences in the realm of healing. So you get to hear 2 healers connecting soul to soul. And then next week, you get to witness and hear and also participate in yourself the unique healing process that Debbie does with her clients. I become a client in session, and she takes us through some sacred soul alignments. But first, we get to meet her. We get to know her a little bit. We get to be in conversation and be present with what is as it is. You can find Debbie in many places online, not just her podcast. You can also find her on TikTok and Facebook. You can find her on Instagram and YouTube. Just search for Light Up Your Worth on any of those social platforms, and she will pop right up. Debbie also works with healthcare leaders as a professional facilitator, teaching scientific problem solving, strategy development, and leadership coaching. No matter where she shows up or to whom, she is seeking ways to help others feel happier, more confident, and live a more carefree life. And my greeting today would not be complete if I didn't share one of my special offers. And let me just say that Light Up Your Worth has a whole new meaning for me now that I've had a more in-depth conversation with Debbie. I think the name Light Up Your Worth is wonderful as it is, but now I have a deeper understanding of what she is intending with those word choices. And this is what I learned from Debbie. When a person stands in their worth and is truly willing to embody who they are, what they're here for, what they want to give and receive in this world. When a person is standing in their worth, their natural gifts light up and are easily shared with the world. And so I am practicing standing in my worth. And do you know what lights up? My healing sessions. I just love healing sessions. It's something that I began professionally when I was in college through biofeedback. And my process working with clients has evolved since the early 90s. And I work online. I work with adult individuals and couples, and I have some spaces open. So just go to rainelizabeth.org. Right there on the home page, click the button that says schedule, and the options will show up for you. You can schedule a 20-minute free consultation and we can just chat about how I might help you. You can also jump right into a healing session for yourself or for you and your partner or anyone you're in relationship with. Sometimes I work with adult children and their parents. Could be anything, but individuals, couples, see me. I am lit up about healing. I am here to help you and serve. It's one of my favorite things in the whole universe. I also love being in the practice of mentioning other people who are near and dear to me, who help me, who help people in the world. And today I would like to highlight my sound editor, Ferrara. Ferrara is amazing and helps me with all of these episodes. Ferrara is the person who edits what I send to her, and she does a fantastic job. So look in the show notes for her email address. Reach out to her for any sound editing need. I cannot say enough good things about Ferrara, and I hope Ferrara will visit us on this show one day. We'll see. I can always hope. It would be a delight. So, without further ado, here is Debbie McAllister of Light Up Your Worth. Enjoy this conversation today and come back on Friday so that she can take you along with me into the healing realm of her work. And right now, you'll get to meet her, know where she's coming from, get a sense of her perspective on the universe and life and healing and relationship. So enjoy, and thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being here. Hey, Debbie.
Hey, Rain.
I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm so happy to learn more about your work, and we've already been chit-chatting a bit, and I'm so excited about our connection and all that you have to share with me about what you do. And I'm wondering, to begin with, what are you grateful for?
Well, I am grateful, first off, for the invitation to come on your podcast. I feel very honored to be getting even a deeper connection with you today and your audience, and I just feel extremely grateful. I am grateful in my life for all of the opportunities that life has presented itself through my journey. I'm in my fifth decade, halfway through my fifth decade. And the lessons that I've been presented the last 5 years have really expanded me and my ability to serve others. As I've done even deeper level of healing and clearing out my own channel. And I am extremely grateful for my spirit team and those opportunities of connecting in. So
thank you for doing that. Thank you for healing yourself. Thank you for working to offer healing to others. And I love getting to know you as a fellow healer in this world. It's so wonderful that you're here, period, and here with me and here with all of us.
I just love when we come together and infuse our light and send out, exponentially that light to the world. The world needs more and more light.
That's just reminding me, when you're using the word light, that you have a podcast, right? That's called Light Up Your Worth. Is that it?
That's right. Light up your worth.
So I'm just feeling light beaming from you and thinking about your amazing show that I like to listen to. And yes, light is so present with you and for me with you. I just see you radiating.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. One of the premises when I was looking to how do I explain the podcast, like how did it come about with the name, is that I really, at a very innate level, believe that when we step into our own worth, that our light begins to shine from the inside out. And that life then will really start opening up and bringing you more of the goodness because you're standing in your own divine worth that we were all
Mm-hmm.
born with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just really starts to show everywhere in your life, in your own presence, when you're in that space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
I love this. I love what you're sharing. I love the reason why you started your show with this name, that standing in one's worth, light naturally shows up and flows through and beams out.
mhm.
How true.
It is, and you see it, you see people stand taller, you make different decisions, you start setting boundaries with people, you start showing up for yourself, you start owning. I think it's a gradual journey, also. It doesn't just poof happen, I'm not bewitched, I can't just twinkle my nose and you're there. But I think it's this unlearning of all of the layers. And as we step more and more into that, we are then presented with different opportunities. All the possibilities just get bigger and bigger. I
Mhm.
mean, and we go through there and we hold that space for the light and then even our own dark that we probably suppressed, through survival techniques and childhood, adulthood, relationships. And I think as we start cleaning those up and clearing them out, it just allows more and more light to show through.
Mhm.
And so I feel like that's my having do it and continually doing it. I think it's a lifelong journey, and we get presented with new opportunities to really look at ourselves and see, how is this serving me even in the most challenging of situations? How is this
Mhm.
serving me? What is here for me? And really stepping into that and becoming familiar with when you are giving those opportunities, which some people might think are events that aren't so pleasant, or challenge life challenges, because life is always like, we're here on earth to experience life.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they're not all rainbows and unicorns. And gosh, and I love unicorns and rainbows, um, but those opportunities of being here and experiencing this, you got to have rain, right? You got to have the rain or the sunshine. It,
Mhm.
it's just part of it, all of us. So I also am very conscious of that whole, where people think people are always just super happy and positive all the time. I think that's why learn you learn in the journey, as I have learned, and how I like to support people in the journey is that you will have those moments where you need to have a life preserver. You need somebody there with you for support and
Mhm.
help you so that you can see that and reflect it back to you, that this is a moment. And because we can all get caught up in those life circumstances, but then once we walk through it and not suppress it within
Mhm.
ourselves, we feel all of that. And it just, as you walk through it, you realize that you get more and more familiar with what that looks like and feels like, and you can lean in even deeper. So
Mhm.
those ugly cries and those moments where you're like, why did I just break down in Costco? Right? Like
Mhm.
what just triggered me? Or simple things, an old song on the radio or a picture of a memory that you need to allow yourself to look at and
Mhm.
bring more light to it. It's a beautiful journey.
Mhm. Mhm. It is a beautiful journey. And I love you mentioning the dark as well as the light. And something that I love about the dark is that so many seeds are born in the dark. And we really need that nourishing, rich darkness, because some of the seeds, I believe, inside of each of us are nourished by being swaddled and embraced and
Mhm.
then searching for the light. So there's something so precious about being in the dark and looking for, where is that light? Where is that light? And then bursting forth through the surface into the light of the world.
Yes. Yes, it's like a seed, right? Like, I think, we should, really think about like the seed. We put it deep in the earth in when it's colder in winter. I live where there's a winter in this beautiful mountain town of Flagstaff, Arizona. And yes, it's 7,000 feet elevation, beautiful ponderosa pines. We have true winter where we get a lot of snow. And so planting it underneath, we don't question if we plant seeds that they're going to grow, right? As long as we water them and tend to them. But they're underneath, they're in the snow, and they're covered and they're doing that. And I think we do
Hmm.
that. There's a
Hmm.
reason for the winter and the spring and the summer and the fall,
Hmm.
and I think when we slow down and get connected into that part of ourselves, we can realize, oh, don't give up right before you're going to burst through, and I think that's the
Yeah.
most challenging time for all of us to learn about our own seasons and our own growth through
Mm.
that you need that season. It's winter, right now. And oh, don't you just love winter? Like,
Yes.
it's like this internal cocoon. I frequently I love the butterfly, with going from the caterpillar to the butterfly. It's that complete metamorphosis in
Hmm.
that goo. It actually completely dissolves,
Yes.
but it leaves like there are a few things that are left though in that metamorphosis in the
Hmm.
goo, and those are the outline of their spine, for instance,
Oh,
right? And of
beautiful.
their wings. They're already there inside of them as a caterpillar, literally. You
Oh,
can go
Debbie,
Google it. It's science.
it's amazing. That is
Oh,
amazing. And it's so amazing as science and as a part of this world. It's also amazing as a metaphor for those of us who resonate with the butterfly energy and how some of us have our wings already in us,
mhm.
already there. And
Oh,
yet we still need to dissolve for those wings to emerge, the wings that already exist.
mhm. Yeah. And if we, break open that cocoon, it's not gonna
Mhm.
allow it. So
Mhm.
you have to allow it. And I like to think of this moments too as for us as humans in that metamorphosis, that we leave time in our lives for that to occur,
Mhm.
that our schedules aren't so packed that if you have to have a moment, you are allowed to have that moment. So
Mhm.
if there's anybody listening who says, well, my life is packed, I give you permission to show up for yourself. In case you need somebody to grant that to you, you are worth those moments in time. I had one yesterday I was sharing with you. I had a
Yeah.
picture. Well, my son's dad texted me a picture of us when we were very young, and we are radiating. We were very, very happy in that moment that this picture was taken, and it shows. He texted me and said, "Oh, we look like movie stars." And I thought, and I thought, we do. Like we did. We look like movies. We were going to one of our closest friends' wedding. We're like 27 and we had already been together since 18. So 18, 19. And so, we're way into this relationship. And this moment in time was just so beautiful. Our outfits and we're color coordinated and it's the early 90s. And so I got my shoulder pads going
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah, set I miss those shoulder pads, by the way, but derail me. And so it triggered the next day, it triggered all of these things I had still wanted to say about, that 20-year relationship ended almost 20 years ago now, 15, 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And after the first tough few years, we've found this space, to communicate every once in a while. And so he must have found some old picture, reached out. But that next day, yesterday, it really triggered something about
Mm,
who I was at that age. I was 27 in my life. I just had so much hope entwined with him. Like I
mhm,
thought that was my whole life, that was going to be it. And if we hadn't gone through the issues in our pretty dysfunctional relationship, if I hadn't left at 20 years, I wouldn't have had all these other opportunities present itself
mhm,
to learn more about me
mhm, mhm,
through that heartbreak, that coming to terms with that level of, as an empath, the level of it was soul crushing. Like I just couldn't even imagine that this wasn't my partner. Like
mm,
I could not comprehend it, but through that, it allowed me to step into who I was to become
mhm, mhm.
and continue to grow into, now all all this many, many years later. Right.
Yeah.
And so I was thankful, but it did trigger that moment, where I'm like, oh, we were happy that for that moment in time, maybe the next week we weren't, right? Or the next multiple 10 years we weren't, but for that period of time we were. And so I had all of this stuff come up and I was very sad, ugly, ugly tears.
Mm,
And instead of holding it, I was at home and I just thought, I had, of course, a to-do list that had hoped to get out. And I thought, no, let's just sit with this. What's here? And I
mm,
got myself into the heart of creation, right? I connected up into, the universe and like quantum. And I just allowed and asked myself, what does my soul need to tell me now?
mm,
What am I releasing? And I just sat in those moments and allowed it, all these ugly cry that I didn't even realize was still there, of
mm,
that young woman from 3 decades ago, and just allowed it. And then I jumped in the shower, allowed the water, the rain, really the water is so healing, to
mm,
just wash over me, let more release, and end up doing a cord cutting with
mhm,
love, doing a Ho'oponopono prayer of I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, and allowed all of that to happen. And when by the time, and I stood with the water running as I did the cords releasing, and sent him off. And then when I was all done later, I just cleared my space. I this time I just did an aura spray, but sometimes I'll sage or palace, all the multiple ways we can clear. And it felt beautiful. I had an amazing day. And that was probably, 20 minutes maybe of the release. It actually isn't
Wow.
as long as people think, because I think you get used to, when you've changed your neural pathways, you know what this process feels like. So just lean in.
Mm,
I just leaned into it. And I know this time of the year right now, it's the best time to release. I think with the winter cycles, and we're shedding,
mhm,
what
mhm.
we don't need, just like the bears in hibernation, right? Like we're just
Yeah.
shedding what we don't need. That seed, is just getting rid of what it doesn't need.
It's true, yeah, that many seeds burst forth through their shell, and that shell sometimes grows with it to the external light, and the shell will drop in the light. Sometimes the shell is left in the darkness and it's just left behind from the very beginning. I find seeds fascinating. I'm in love with gardening.
Yeah, and this year I'm actually going to be doing my first garden. So
Mhm,
I'm really excited learning about, what am I going to plant? What herbs do I want to plant?
mhm,
And what do I want to, freeze later, have a
mhm,
harvest,
mhm.
and go through that whole celebration of a harvest. So I'm excited to
Yeah.
learn more seeds. I'll have to reach out to you, Irene,
Yes.
with when I get there.
Yes, good. And I will be right there with you to talk about seeds and all of it. And I also want to touch back in on the heart of creation that you mentioned, because in this episode, we get to do something really special. I get to go through your process that you take people through in your work. And the heart of creation has something to do with that, I think. So, can you
Mhm.
kind of spiral us into what the heart of creation is and what your work is and what you'll be taking me through?
Mhm. So the heart of creation is a connection at the simplest forms up into the quantum field. And so we are connecting in really with our own divine aspect and our presence here and combining them and bringing in our highest self and any of our spirit guides that we are individually connected with. So I personally, connect in with God, my angels, Jesus and Buddha, and Lakmir and Archangel Michael, and multiple others. For myself, I call in my own female ancestors to come with me and bring in their supportiveness for myself. And so, and just lots and lots of angels, are there. And so, this heart of creation is before I start, I call them all in. And then we go into it. It feels like it's like a meditation that's going to bring us up into being able to connect into our higher self. And anybody can bring in who's part of their who's their support team, and that's where you're open to all of the possibilities of everything that we want to bring in, everything that we want to release. It's also known as the Akash, our Akash records. And so we're out there where everything has ever happened in any timeline. And there's a lot out there on the Akash and the quantum field and how we can change those neural pathways in our subconscious to heal and to really, step forth into our own presence and our own authentic self through this process. And so the heart of creation, it was created by my spiritual mentor, Alicia Hartswell, who I've had on, my Light Up Your Worth podcast as well. And I think she's brilliant in how she has connected in. And in her evolution, I've been with her for a very many, many, many years, we'll say. And with her sweet energy that comes through, really heart centered, obviously my energy comes through with it as well, where I am. And so that's why I will always continue to do my own work to be a clear vessel for the energy to come through me. It's not my energy, it's all of our energies collectively of how we're all connected because we're all together as one. That's
Indeed.
that's my beliefs. So
Mhm. Mine as well.
yeah, yeah, we're all connected. Like I can feel our heart to heart connected, already long before we, started the podcast. And
Mhm.
so that's my way of how I get there is that's the vehicle I use to do that. And, when I don't go through it at the whole time, because I can connect in personally very quickly in seconds, because my brain, my subconscious brain, if you think of like a record, we have tracks. If people remember records, or even a CD, they have tracks around it. And our brain, we get stuck in those tracks from with unconscious, limiting beliefs. Sometimes some of them are good for us, right? Like that we're all formed before we were 7. And based upon the science that's out there, this helps us get into being able to heal some of those tracks, jump tracks, really create new ones, new neural pathways in our brain to be able to make, the changes that we see in our lives and how it shows up in the external world, as well as our own peace that we can feel within ourselves that matches the whole, the light that we can shine in owning our worth, right? Like we've picked up things that we don't even realize. And so the heart of creation is how you can get to making those changes within yourselves, just like your work. There's so many different ways to connect in. And I think that is just what is so magnificent about all of our work is that there's not one way to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not at all. We all have a gift to share. And not only in the healing field, but in every line of work, every vocation, every profession.
Mm-hmm.
If a person is truly sharing their gifts, it's a blessing for all of us.
Yes. 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 I believe that, and I know people search for their purpose. What's my purpose? What's my purpose? And after which become extremely clear since I've had the podcast to light up your worth. Not that I didn't know it, but it's almost like a validation of it is that what is our purpose? It's to heal ourselves, heal our families, however that shows up, and contribute to supporting each other. So like you said, like you could be the science teacher and you shining your light because you love the science of, the seeds, like that's science. You're home raising little souls into this life, give them the opportunity to voice who they are is healing. And that's our purpose. However, it shows up with however our vocation is. I believe our purpose is simply to heal and to heal others, however that looks like. You could be cutting my lawn, and if that brings you joy and you're out there whistling and singing and you love being connected in that way, that is your purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And you'll also be doing some sacred soul alignments. Is that true?
That's true.
Great.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I can't wait. So sacred soul alignments are basically energy pockets of how to gently and in a supportive way go in and help in the subconscious to infuse new thoughts into your mind so that, because our brain doesn't see things as positive or negative, it just is. And so we bring in these energies that the unconscious, the subconscious can connect to and gently go in and either release things that we no longer need, like a fear or being afraid or health issues, how things can disease can create and manifest into our physical body if they're kind of stuck there, like the most uncommon one is we don't feel worthy. And you might feel worthy in some parts of your life, but maybe not others, where you're questioning yourself, like, why do I deserve this? Or the comparison, we get stuck in what we're learning that without our own whatever how resistant can shows up for us. And so the sacred soul alignments can go in and gently start removing those layers, and then it can also infuse in new energies into those areas so that you can create new different neural pathways into co-creating or manifesting how you want to show up in this world and what you want to call in, and that really start showing that light and clearing that channel so that you can then vibrate at a higher level of consciousness and awareness in your life.
Beautiful. How exciting.
Yeah. And it was Alicia Hartswell, again, who has created the Sacred Soul Alignments. And I've been with her on the journey since the download started to come in many years ago now, 10 years ago now. So I've worked with multiple modalities, and this one just really speaks to my soul.
Wonderful. So I'm game. I'm in. I'm surrendering to you, Debbie. Do with me as you will.
Okay.
And there you have it. A grand introduction to Debbie McAllister and her work. Light up your worth. Tune in next week, and we will be taken through the Heart of Creation energetic meditation and the sacred soul alignments. This is very deep and nurturing, fulfilling energy work. And I invite you in to continue the journey. On Friday, January 27th, 2023, we will be right here continuing the journey with you. Thank you so much. And just a little bit of a sneak peek, you will get to witness me in my own truth bumps, as Debbie calls them, those little goosebumps that we get when we hear something so true and resonant with our own souls. So I get truth bumps, and we all have the opportunity together to lean into healing and release whatever needs to be released. See you soon. Thank you so much for listening. It has been a great joy to have your presence here in this podcast. I welcome you to celebrate the joy and wisdom in your life exactly as it is. And I welcome you to feel loved, fully loved, exactly as you are. www.rainelizabeth.org